Welcome to your Friday edition of Collider Movie Talk. We have a special show today because we're giving out some summer season awards. We got a whole bunch of categories to go through, and then on top of that, we are catching up on a whole bunch of key trailers we missed throughout the week, movies that could go on to get Academy Award nominations, so we're going to highlight some of our favorites there, and I have the pleasure of doing that today with Josh and Silas. Hi, guys.
What's up, Perri?
I just assumed you both knew each other already, and it's freaking me out.
First time hanging out with Silas. We have similar tastes in television, so we've been talking about that. I know this is movie talk. But before we go on, I'd really like to point out that Silas did not wear purple, and it's really pissing me off.
I know.
I'm so sorry.
He does. What's your shirt today?
This is a Bunnicula shirt. My sister got me.
Bunnicula. Is that a bunny Dracula?
Yeah.
That's why it's okay that he's not wearing purple.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that. I will give you that.
All right, no time to waste. Today we are jumping into our first category, which we're calling our summer movie season awards.
It's a lot.
That's the right order of words. We've got 4 categories we're going to hit right now: best performance, best director, biggest disappointment, biggest surprise. Silas, let's start with you for best performance of summer 2019. Who you got?
I wound up going with Leonardo DiCaprio for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Okay.
I think it's kind of an easy answer because he's like the stereotypical like actor. The movie's so good. I don't think I've seen another movie this year that has made me want to go back and just see it again. And as soon as I sort of like decided, okay, well that movie sticks out for me as one of the highlights of the year, and his performance just is my favorite in the film.
I don't know if I'm as enthusiastic about the movie overall. I did think it was quite good, but it's not even just an easy answer. It's probably the right answer because I think at this point in time, and I know we still have a lot of movies to go, he's at the top of many lists for Best Actor nomination prediction, so it makes sense.
He'll get one, I would imagine.
Oh, I'm betting on it.
I feel like there's two camps for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. There's the people that love it, which I have a bunch of friends that loved it, and the people are just like, I liked it. Like, there's no people that were like, I hated that movie, right? Even my wife, who doesn't know who Quentin Tarantino really is, like she's not like, what, Pulp Fiction? She was like, it was pretty good.
I'm sure that the hate it camp exists, but I can't say I've actually. I haven't really had a conversation with someone who strongly disliked that movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's my kind of movie. I mean, 60s, early 70s Hollywood. I know it's 69, but like you're trending towards early 70s. I mean, I could watch Boogie Nights whenever it's on. So like that era of Hollywood, even though that's the porn industry, any kind of like old school Hollywood, I love it.
All right, let's place some bets right now. Okay. So come award season, who do you think has the better shot of getting a nomination? And I don't know what they're doing with the categories, if DiCaprio would be lead and Pitt would be supporting, but who do you think has a better shot of getting a nomination in their respective category between the two of them?
I think DiCaprio. I think Brad Pitt is exceptional in it, but part of it's just he's a cool guy. Like he just sort of stands there and he's really cool, and that's the character. So while I think he's amazing at that, I don't think it's necessarily a challenge. Whereas Leonardo DiCaprio goes to some places in the film that I think are kind of hard to reach for an actor.
Yeah, I would lean towards Leo as well. As much as I could watch Brad Pitt be cool on camera in any movie. Yeah, I mean, acting-wise, I would definitely lean towards Leo.
At this point in time, I think I'm in agreement with you guys. Yeah. All right, Macuga, who is your pick for best performance of the summer?
Best performance. I was torn between the two lovely ladies from Booksmart.
Okay.
And Shia LaBeouf in Peanut Butter Falcon. And I went with Shia LaBeouf and Peanut Butter Falcon because this movie blew my mind. Like, I knew I would like it. I knew what I'd like it from the trailer, and I watched it, and I immediately watched it again, and that rarely happens with movies for me. It's 90 minutes of just pure joy, and this movie is absolutely fantastic. It's my favorite movie of the year so far.
I'm not going to comment on Peanut Butter Falcon because I'll get back to it soon enough. Yeah. Silas, did you see this one?
I haven't, and I'm really excited. I've watched the trailer, and honestly, I can't wait to double feature it with Joker.
Yeah. Yeah.
It feels like just him and his father as a clown.
Right.
It seems like there's some thematic glue there.
Oh, Honey Boy. Honey Boy is the one about.
I'm sorry. I'm going backwards. Yeah. No,
Honey Boy's coming out later this year. Highly recommend that one if you guys get saw it at Sundance. That was one of my favorite movies.
I was like,
Sundance.
wait, Joker and Peanut Butter Falcon.
Shia LaBeouf is having one heck of a year.
He's just been gone for so long that now.
I know. Well, his return in Peanut Butter Falcon. God, that movie is just. I mean, I saw a screener of it and then watched the screener again, and then I took my wife to see it in a theater. So I've seen it 3 times.
Yes.
I loved that movie.
That's how you do it. Yeah. All right. So I don't talk about Peanut Butter Falcon anymore and spoil one of my future picks. My pick for best performance of summer 2019 is the only performance I've seen all year where when I walked away, I was just like 100% sure that this individual delivered the best performance I've seen thus far and deserves an Oscar nomination. And it's Jessie Buckley in Wild Rose. I don't necessarily think the movie's making enough noise to get her to the Academy Awards, but at least maybe a Best Original Song nomination could be a possibility for that movie. But she is something else. And just wait, as the months go by, she's going to be in more and more things, and before we know it, she's going to be a superstar. But if you haven't seen Wild Rose, cannot recommend that enough.
It came and went in the theater so quickly, right?
It's limited.
Okay.
It got a limited release, I believe, at the end of June. But
Okay.
you know, the second that hits any sort of streaming service, I really do think you would like it.
I know that I would. I liked the trailer.
Okay.
I loved it. Yeah, yeah.
It hasn't really been on my radar, but yeah, hearing you say that, it's like that's on my list now.
Neon is crushing it this year. Between that, they've got Loose in theaters, which is also well worth seeing. Speaking of which, another great performance, Kelvin Harrison Jr. And then they have, you shouldn't see this one, but they have The Lodge coming out later this year. Silas, go see The Lodge.
You love horror.
I do, yeah.
Okay.
All right, next category, Best Director.
Best
You wanna
director,
go
Olivia
first?
Wilde, Booksmart.
Yes, I like that.
Without
That
a-
was the only reason why I'm like okay with you passing on Beanie Feldstein and Caitlin Dever
Yeah.
in the last category, because I knew it was going to come up eventually.
No, I think as far as like a directorial debut, you rarely see this quality of a project in a movie. And it could have been so cookie cutter. It could have been so just stereotypical, like this is our high school coming of age story. But the way it was shot, the way that it was crafted, and the way that they like took their time, and the way that Olivia Wilde took her time in a lot of shots that maybe a lot of directors wouldn't think are necessary, I think really made this movie.
Well, one of the things she told me when I spoke to her at the junket was there were a couple of very memorable shots that she had to fight for. It's like, you know, that pool sequence?
Yes.
Like, it's a very stylish bit of the movie, and it
Yeah.
really adds a lot of atmosphere and even adds depth to Caitlin Dever's situation at the given moment. And she had to fight for that, and she actually did. And I feel like those are the parts of the movie where you could see her specific influence as a director, where nobody else could have duplicated that.
And the crazy thing that you say that is I think about that pool scene when I think about how the movie was directed. Like I love that scene. Yeah.
You into Booksmart?
I think it's a fantastic choice. In fact, it may have even gone on my list had I not seen your list first. But I was like, okay, it's going to get attention.
That movie is still my fourth favorite movie of 2019.
Fourth favorite movie of
Yeah.
20. It's in my top 5 for sure.
Yeah.
100%.
Avengers Endgame, Us, Brittany Runs a Marathon, Booksmart.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
those are going to be in the top 10 at
Sure,
the end of
sure,
the year. I
sure,
just
sure.
feel it. I feel it. All
Our
right,
top
Silas.
5s are so different. It's
I
amazing.
know,
It's
probably.
the
You
best.
probably don't have a single horror movie on your list.
I do not. No.
What is your pick for Best Director,
I
Silas?
mean, not to sound like a Tarantino fanboy, but I also picked Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Which, you know, it sort of gave me pause before I did, because I know I already picked it for Best Actor, and it's the only other category that I picked for it, but it's so good.
Yeah.
And it's a movie that I have gone and seen multiple times in the theater and enjoyed more on repeat viewings, and I want to go see again. And I can't remember the last time a movie really did that.
I think that Tarantino, some of his movies have an amazing rewatchability factor. Like for me, Kill Bill Volume 2 and Inglourious Basterds I can watch anytime, right? Like those are my 2 favorite Tarantino movies. This one, whenever it's going to come on HBO or whatever pay channel that I have and it's on there, anytime it's on, I don't care where it is in the movie, I will watch.
I think it has something to do with the fact that he is just a pro at, like, of course his movies have like an overarching narrative, but he's so good at making each scene almost like a complete moment. Whenever I think about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I'll always think of the scene with Julia Butters and Leonardo DiCaprio, that sequence where he's performing and he's working with her. I think that conversation and then the end result is just such a beautiful moment for both characters.
I agree. Yeah.
It makes me really love living in Hollywood too. It has such a love for the history and for all of these sort of like timeless things that belong as much to dreams as to reality. And
I drive past that Safari Inn every single day. I mean,
Do you know I lived in the Safari Inn for like a week and a half when I
What?
was trying to find an apartment to move here?
you lived there?
I lived there for way too long.
I keep trying to pitch my wife on like, let's stay at the Safari Inn
Don't,
for a
yeah.
night. Yeah, she is not into the idea.
It's a fine pit stop type place if you want one night there,
Sure.
but you don't want to spend like I
Yeah.
think I was there for something like 10 to 12 nights.
Oof. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
rough
I was
scene.
done at the end.
Yeah.
I needed my bed. All right, my pick for Best Director, probably a movie you haven't seen, Josh. But seriously, I say this. You know I wouldn't steer you into, you know, a barrage of Pennywise. No, you don't trust me. Crawl. Alexander Aja for Crawl. Okay.
Listen.
You're making me feel better right now.
I am scared of everything, okay? But there was something about that Crawl trailer that I was like, okay, it's alligators. I mean, I know I'm gonna have jump scares and stuff like that, and I will be scared, but I like the natural disaster kind of stuff, I dig.
These are some of the most satisfying jump scares I've seen all year, in that certain times when I was like jumping, it was more of a, oh my God, and like root for the character kind of way. There's one particular scene in this movie where I was loving it, and it's right around the midpoint, but I was loving it. And when this happened, I'm like I was practically standing the rest of the movie. Wow. I was so crazed by everything that was happening. But I put this in the best director category because this movie easily could have been along the lines of, and I'm not knocking anyone who likes Sharknado out there, but it could have been a silly Sharknado type thing. You. Alexander Aja so expertly directs this contained, that like the whole thing basically takes place in the house, and a lot of it takes place underneath too, in the crawl space. And the fact that he is able to establish the geography, make every visual interesting, and he gets such great performances out of Kaya Scodelario and Barry Pepper. I just applaud him for this one. He knocks it out of the park.
Barry Pepper, rarely mentioned anymore. I love Barry Pepper.
He's great. He's great
fantastic.
in this.
All right, Crawl.
Did you see Crawl?
I did. I liked Crawl a lot.
Okay.
I wish the visual effects were maybe a little stronger, especially towards the beginning. But I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
I'll
take what I can get.
This is going to be on one of those, like, I'll watch this one, like on an on-demand or something like that.
I really think you'd
enjoy it. Might have to be
it.
during the daytime. Like, I got to set my standards. You know what I mean? Like, if I watch this at night,
Just make sure it's not raining.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do you remember Hard Rain? Do you remember the movie Hard Rain? Do you ever see Hard Rain?
I think we've had this discussion. I've never seen Hard Rain before, but
Christian
I did put it on a
Slater,
list
Morgan
recently.
Freeman. It's like a $180 million movie, or 120, and they made like $10 million opening week, and they flooded an entire town, like a high school. They flooded a high school and shot movie like all on jet skis and boats. It was rough, and it wasn't a good movie. That was the other problem.
Hard Rain. That's how I'll follow up all of my TIFF viewing, by watching that. All right, I'll go first for biggest disappointment and get it out of the way, because I think I had a recent rant on Movie Talk about this one, The Kitchen. How do you assemble an ensemble like that and then wind up with a movie like this? I thought it had so much potential, and it's just... particularly when it came to story structure, I don't think any of the performances were bad, but it just wasted everything Tiffany Haddish, Melissa McCarthy, and Elizabeth Moss had to give. I was just really so bummed. So much of the movie feels like incomplete. There are just some inexcusable missteps with The Kitchen that made it one of the biggest bummers of the summer for me.
Yeah.
I didn't see it. It's one of those movies that, it was coming out, and you can sort of tell when they have realized that there's not going to be momentum, and the movie just...
Yeah.
And I just didn't see it as a result.
I legit was thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, what was that movie with Melissa McCarthy, right? Then I was like, oh, that didn't come out in theaters yet. And then I was like, wait a second, Perry went to the screening and told me this Tiffany Haddish story. Like, okay, so it did come out. Wait, is it still in theaters? Let me look. No? Was it was it a week in the theaters? There was no talk about it. There was no even social media presence. I saw no, there was nothing pushed any kind of a trend with The Kitchen. And you're right, it is kind of a bummer.
Usually you can coast on an ensemble like that, but this one wasn't even worth it. I think that this one, everybody involved, it was better off if they took that position of, we'll do what we have to. Let this one just go away.
Right.
It's weird, too, because it's technically a DC Comics
Yeah.
movie adaptation.
Yeah.
Oh, well. All right, Silas, you're up. What is your biggest disappointment?
Okay, I have to preface this by saying that it's also one of my favorite movies of the year. So, but Dead Don't Die, Jim Jarmusch's movie. I love
My what
Jim
was
Jarmusch.
for your first comment, that it was one of your favorite movies of the year?
I love Jim Jarmusch, and there was no way I wasn't going to love this movie, and there's so much in the movie that I still love, and I can't wait to see again and see if my opinion has changed. But it was the most disappointing time I had at a theater. It kind of fell flat, and it just wasn't as good as I hoped it would be.
I don't know you that well, but I can just see you walking out of a theater just like... Because you sound like you like Jim Jarmusch so much. You walk out of theater, it's like... I see the dejection. I just see it. I hear it.
That's a real thing, though. It's like, you could absolutely love a movie, but recognize that there are so many inexcusable flaws in it.
Yeah.
And it hurts when you can't defend those flaws, but that doesn't take away from your enjoyment of the movie.
Yeah.
All right.
I won't see that, right? Dead Don't Die?
I mean, you could. You're not going to be scared by it, but I'm with
Just by
Silas. I found
your-
it very flat, very slow, not very funny, extremely repetitive. I wouldn't say it's worth your time.
Got it. Okay.
Instead, there's a movie we're going to talk about when we get to the trailers that's a zombie movie that I suspect is worth your time. Because I
Okay.
hear wonderful things about it. But
Got
first,
it.
what's your biggest disappointment?
Biggest disappointment by far is Dark Phoenix. I idiotly whatever went and spent money on this movie because I really liked the X-Men. Like I went to this movie and I feel like X-Men First Class was this unbelievable like reboot of a franchise, right? Like I loved X-Men First Class. And I dug X-Men Days of Future Past. I didn't love it as much as everybody else did. Like this is and Captain America 2, right? And then this third one, what was it called? Apocalypse, X-Men Apocalypse was terrible. And this one was just a trash heap of a movie. And I was like, what did we do to the X-Men franchise? I understand that a lot of these people are like, well, they got to time into the MCU, so they just winged a movie. You spent a ton of money on this movie. Did we not see this coming? Like, this is clearly a mail-in X-Men movie. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little but I spent money on this stupid movie, and I love Sophie Turner. I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan. And Jean Grey was like the best part of the first 3 X-Men, and they just totally threw Jean Grey up into space and were like, good luck.
I feel like the only reason this wasn't my biggest disappointment is because at a point we knew it was going to be a disappointment. So I wound up being pleasantly surprised that it wasn't completely unwatchable.
Oh, it was just brutal for me. Like, I was just bored at times.
Yeah.
Just absolutely bored.
I can understand that. All right, let's not end this segment
Yes.
on a low note because we are finishing up with our biggest surprise of summer 2019. I'll just get mine out of the way first because it was something that was brought up recently, and it's the Peanut Butter Falcon. Yeah. You hear a title like that, and if you have never read a synopsis, you're like, what is this?
Right.
I don't know about that. And even though there was so much talk about it, I managed to avoid, and this never happens with me, spoilers, obviously, synopsis, trailers, everything. Went into the movie completely blind, and I was just absolutely delighted. And because the movie keeps going wider, they're playing the trailer on TV all the time, and every single time it comes out, like a freaking trailer,
Yeah.
I stop and I turn and I watch my TV, and it's always that line where he's like, what's like the number one rule? Party.
Yeah, I love
It's
that.
my favorite thing. I adore that movie.
It's absolutely fantastic. I mean, I know I talked about it already, but I think it's in Pittsburgh soon. I told my parents, if you see it at a theater, you have to go see it. Because they'll love the movie too. I mean, it's for all generations. It's for all people. It's just the sweetest, most heartwarming story you'll ever see.
It's one of those movies that I would say, I really can't imagine a scenario where someone doesn't like this.
Oh,
You
no.
don't have to love it as much as we do,
Sure.
but where someone doesn't at least like the movie.
No, you have to be a heartless, soulless person to not like the Peanut Butter Falcon.
All right, I'm tossing it back to you. What's your biggest surprise?
Okay, I was gonna put Good Boys as my
Okay.
biggest surprise because I saw that this past weekend and I laughed through that entire movie. I loved Good Boys. That's my kind of movie. Put that in my Mount Rushmore of the year. That's in my top 5 right now. But I went with Rocket Man mostly because I knew I would like it. I don't love musicals, but it's an Elton John like homage musical sort of thing that almost feels like the camera is taking you on a journey the whole time. I love this movie. Like, I was floored by how much I love this movie. I love Elton John music. I know the story. I remember watching the behind the music from back in the day. I loved Rocketman. And I know everybody liked it, but it was just such a surprise to me how much I liked it. Yeah.
Did you like Rocketman too, Silas?
I did. I think at times it falls a little too much into the standard biopic,
Sure.
but it's so good. And Taron Egerton is just incredible.
Yeah. He's another one we should watch out for the next couple of weeks. Depending on what comes out from the festival circuit, he could wind up being a chance for a best actor nod.
I would be shocked if he wasn't. I would be almost disappointed if he
He's and I mean, I'll be a little disappointed. Again, I can't say I'll be fully disappointed because I don't know what else is in contention at this point. But even if it doesn't happen this time, I think we've seen already time and time again that Taron Egerton will be back again and again and again.
I can see him being like, mid to late 30s, getting one of those like career defining kind of roles. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, when you think about how many credits he's amassed in such a short period of time, it's really something else.
Yeah, for sure.
Biggest surprise of summer, Silas.
Ready or Not.
Yes.
Just such a fun movie. I thought it looked fun from the trailer, but it was one of those trailers where, it can sort of go either way. And then actually seeing the movie was one of the best times I had at the theater all year. It's like Clue meets Evil Dead 2.
Interesting. I was going to say, when I saw the trailer, I was like, kind of like a crazy Clue.
It's crazy to me that it is essentially hide and seek the movie, and it's good. Because how many times have we heard about game adaptations and we're like, that sounds ridiculous. A Ouija movie, a Stretch Armstrong movie? Stop this nonsense. And now hide and seek happens to be super cinematic.
I dig it.
Josh, you should see this.
Okay.
It does have a horror tinge to it, but it's more action thriller horror, and I think you'd have a blast with it.
Samara Weaving is in Smilf.
So good.
And I loved her in Smilf, and when I saw her in this trailer, I was like, okay, you can sell me on Samara Weaving. And then I was like, this is gonna be a horror thing. And then I was like, okay, it could be like a crazy Clue. It seemed more violent than horror, which I dig.
She has a movie coming out at TIFF soon called Guns Akimbo, where she is unrecognizable and she stars opposite Daniel Radcliffe. And just
Really?
because she's, I love Daniel Radcliffe too, and I happen to like that director from another movie he had done. But at this point, I will follow Samara Weaving wherever she goes.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
always
right.
picks interesting stuff.
Ready
All
to go.
right. Before we move on to story number 2 today, which is covering a couple trailers we missed. For our promo today, we're making a big announcement. So it's been nice doing movie talk at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but you know where we could have the most fun? In the morning. So we are going back to 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. This edition of Movie Talk is something you are probably going to be looking forward to, because in addition to the new time, we're also going to have some new segments and more content, a longer show, no more 20 minutes. We are going to go a little longer depending on the stories we're talking about. So it is going to be a good time. As soon as I am back in LA from TIFF, we are going to kick this off, making that move to 9 a.m. So write it down in your calendars and your phones. I don't know, wherever you put this kind of memo, set your alert, because when we're back in town, I believe, what was it, the 16th? Is that Monday, Adam? Where's that graphic? Let's get that graphic again.
The 13th.
13th. No, the 12th is when I get back from
14th
TIFF.
is
There
16th,
it is.
16, yes.
There's
16.
no date on that. Yes, the 16th, that Monday, we are going to 9 a.m. Pacific. Do not forget, I will see you then, because I have this episode, and then I think I'm doing the episode on Monday, and then God help you all, John Roca's in charge.
2 weeks of TIFF. Holy moly.
Yeah. It's a lengthy festival. You got to cram in as much as you can, so you're all prepared for Oscar season, because FYC is coming back also.
Wow.
Before I get too out of control with all that
Wow,
stuff, let's
Perri.
get to our trailers. So, trailers we are discussing right now. We've got One Cut of the Dead, The Laundromat, The King, and The Aeronauts. Who wants to go first? What is the trailer that you enjoyed the most?
Laundromat.
Yes.
I love The Informant. I think that, like, not only do I love The Informant, but
We're in a small group of people that like The Informant. Like, I really enjoyed The Informant.
I forget how much I like The Informant, and then every time I watch it, I just am laughing.
Such a silly cavalcade of stupidity, and I loved it. I really, really did.
And this almost looks like a flipped, like it looks like the antagonists of this movie are maybe smarter than Matt Damon's character,
Yeah.
but they're facing off against Meryl Streep, who it just looks like such a good time.
I'll just never say no to Soderbergh. Like, bring on this style and this flavor. I feel like you could look at a concept like this and think it might be a little dry and serious, and when you see just like the pops of color and the comedic beats he's gotten there, it works so well.
It felt like a Coen Brothers movie a little bit too, which I love that. Yeah, for sure.
What is your pick for favorite trailer of the bunch?
I love epic movies, and I'm part of the Chalamet. Put him in it, and so
is that the official thing we're going with? Chalamet?
Chalamet,
Okay.
yeah. So The King, apparently this is based off Henry V. It's like it is Henry V is the king they're going after. You got your, tormented king. You've got Joel Edgerton writing it and starring in it. All those epic battles. Like, I love Braveheart, and we haven't seen one of these kind of epic battle, medieval movies in a long, long time. So maybe our palates have been cleansed from that inundation of those movies post Braveheart, and we haven't seen Timothee Chalamet outside of like an indie movie where he's playing kind of a down on his luck, or just whatever Call Me by Your Name was, and then the Steve Carell movie where he was the drug addict. He always seems to be playing those really Oscar-worthy performance indie movies. Put him in an epic movie. I kind of want to see what he does.
Well, I mean, I think the big difference there is also just the fact that, like, he's a king with a different level of power in this one.
Totally.
But hopefully it adds to his range. So
Yeah.
because you're a big Chalamet fan, does that mean you're really looking forward to Little Women also?
No.
I had a feeling that was going to be your answer.
No. I had to read that book, and I was like, oh God, here we go.
I haven't fully read it. Everyone picked on me last time because you know how much I read now, but I didn't read when I was younger, and that's when you usually read Little Women. So I think I read like the Spark Notes or something.
Oh, yeah.
And
Cliff Notes of Little Women or something.
It was either Spark Notes or Cliff Notes, but I had them all.
Yeah.
If I had to pick one, I really do. I think I really like the Laundromat trailer, but I think I would actually pick the Aeronauts. I just love Felicity Jones and Eddie Redmayne, the fact that they are coming back together to tell another true story. But in particular, this story looks like it's right up my alley just because I will make reckless decisions to do things I really believe in and really love. And that's kind of what they're doing here. And just like the cinematic possibilities of having two characters trapped in an air balloon that's kind of going out of control. It's a little bummer to hear about all the IMAX stuff where certain scenes were shot in IMAX and now they lost the IMAX release because they pushed the regular release of the movie back and now the IMAX theaters are no longer available. That's a little bit of a bummer, but if the movie is as good as they say it could be, then I imagine with an Oscar campaign would come special IMAX screening. So fingers crossed it's that good and it earns that.
The trailer gave me anxiety in the sense of
course it did.
You're up in the air. I mean, it almost looks like a naval battle.
You don't like heights either, right?
I don't mind heights.
Oh, okay.
But there is something about. I mean, we've never seen a movie like this where they're just in a balloon and everything is going wrong. Like anytime they show you a movie like Perfect Storm, for instance, right? You know what you're getting into. I know what I'm getting into with Aeronauts, but it's not giving me anxiety. You know
Does
what I
it
mean?
give you anxiety, Silas?
I wouldn't say anxiety. The interesting thing about the Aeronauts trailer is it's one of those movies that could go completely either way.
Right.
It could be this amazing historical drama that teaches me about this whole area that I didn't know anything about. It could also be terrible. Yeah. And there is a part of me that
He's not wrong.
He's not. I knew that's where he was going, and I still got a kick out of it. I love it.
Well, there's a part of me that almost would prefer the terrible movie. Yeah. There's something funny about a hot air balloon, and I almost hope that this movie opens in the hot air balloon and everything else is a flashback.
Yeah.
I kind of like your interpretation because it's like we win either way.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Agreed.
Before we leave this segment, one cut of the dead. I have a feeling. Well, I know why you're probably not into it, Josh, but I didn't even bother including it on my list because I didn't need this trailer. I've heard such incredible things about this movie where it's such a fascinating spin and such a clever spin on the zombie comedy genre. It's like one little bit that Haley had said that it unfolds with some of the most clever structuring and laugh out loud until you're literally crying comedic payoff I've seen in ages. So with or without this trailer, that movie is on my radar. So one cut of the dead, don't sleep on that one. And now, before we say goodbye, so Monday's episode of Movie Talk is going to be our fall 2019 preview. So it's the most anticipated movies for us for the rest of the year. I had that conversation with Mark Riley and Haley Fouch. You could see that on Monday, on Labor Day. But before we go, I want to know for both of you, what is your most anticipated movie of the rest of the year?
Silas?
I mean, realistically, it's Star Wars. But I kind of don't want to say that because it's too obvious. I would say either Knives Out, which I sort of has a Star Wars connection, or 1917, the Sam Mendes.
Okay.
The World War I movie.
There was a report that it was all one shot. And I have tried to verify that, and I am unclear whether this is true or if it was something was misconstrued. If it is one shot, I think that goes to the top of the list.
As in the movie plays out in one
a single shot.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a World War I battlefield in a single shot. There's so much to love about Dunkirk. This looks like Dunkirk, but with heart.
More action.
That would kick it up on my list a little bit.
Yeah, Dunkirk had zero heart. I'm kind of with you on that one. I know a lot of people love Dunkirk. I was very just unimpressed by Dunkirk, but I loved the trailer for that movie, the Sam Mendes 1917. For me, I want to put what's it called? Son of a
Joker?
No, not Joker. Forget about it.
I'm trying to think. Jojo Rabbit.
Jojo Rabbit. Thank you. I want to put
I can't
Jojo
believe I just
Rabbit.
guessed that.
Yeah, because I love that trailer. I want to put Jojo Rabbit on there, but I'm also like, will I see that in the theater or will I just wait for it?
No, you'll see it in the theater.
Okay, so I'll see it in the theater. as a kid from Pittsburgh who loved the documentary, I can't wait to see Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers in A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Yeah, that's my most anticipated.
That's
for sure.
a top priority for me at TIFF, especially after Won't You Be My Neighbor? It's
my
just
God.
like my heart melted for Mr. Rogers all over again. And Tom Hanks is just so, like, there is no better person to play Mr. Rogers than Tom Hanks.
I just
or at least high hopes that winds up being the
tweet at
case.
Tom Hanks like once a week, just like, will you be my friend? I just want Tom Hanks to be my friend. That's all.
I want him to write you back.
Yeah, me too.
All right, while we wait for that to happen, I'm going to say goodbye.
Wait, you didn't give your most anticipated.
Because I gave it on next week's show.
Oh, okay.
So I'm teasing it now that you have theirs. You have to tune in on Monday to find out what we all thought.
Death in the model of a house, like some kind of creepy horror movie that nobody knows about.
Not exactly. There is one. There's one horror movie on there that I'm sure everybody out there can probably guess at this point. We do have to say goodbye, though. Silas, Josh, thank you so much for being here today.
Perri.
Adam in the booth, thank you for all your hard work. So I kind of lied again. Movie Talk switches times on Monday, September 16th, and I'm actually back to host on Friday, September 13th. That's when I get back from TIFF, not that Monday. So we'll have one more day with me at 3 o'clock. Have fun with John Rocco while I'm gone. Enjoy your long weekend, and don't forget there is an episode of Movie Talk on Monday. You don't want to miss it. It is our fall movie preview, so check it out and have a good one, guys. See you soon.